Hi, this is Erica Norton, and I am the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm in the Worcester area, and she and her team are fantastic. And so, thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So, let's talk about our topic for the day. We're talking about deadlines and having your clients be responsible for meeting those deadlines and being reasonable with what they expect. Is that right?
That is a correct statement.
So what are some of the things, what are some of the deadlines that we're talking about with real estate?
Well, it's funny because deadlines in real estate are probably the only area where you really don't have a lot of wiggle room. The deadline is the deadline. So you can ask for an extension, but you have to ask. It's not an automatic. It's kind of like if you don't show up for court, guess what? You lose. It's kind of the exact same thing where you have a deadline for a purchase and sale based on the offer to purchase. So you sign that first document that says, hey, I'm going to draft up another well detailed document and I have to get this done and signed within 5 days. Well, if you miss that deadline, you're out of contract. Technically, nobody needs to proceed. So every deadline in the real estate world is really important. And more importantly than that, it's really short. So you really have to be on top of everything and making sure that you're up to date, that you're talking to your attorney, you're talking to your brokers on a regular basis because one of them can cost you the deal, whether you're buying or selling the property.
I mean, that's really the scary part when you have a busy life and your focus should be on getting the deal done, but there's a lot of things that grab your attention. So I I can understand how some people might get distracted, but I mean, you have calendars and you have a lot of things that you can use at your disposal to help keep yourself on track. And I know that you probably have like a timeline of not an exact one, but something where you can show people what usually happens when. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct. I mean, anytime you're going to get a letter from us when we start on a case, is we're going to say, hey, look, this is our timeline. These are the 10 things that we need to get done, whether you're buyer or seller. And I'm going to put that timeline, I'm going to say, ASAP. Some of them are just get them to me as soon as you can, but no later than this date, right? But other things are going to be important. So something simple like a smoke detector certificate. Well, depending on where you are with your town, that could take 2 weeks to get the request into going. Smaller towns, obviously, smaller time frame, but smaller towns mean they only work 1 day a week. So if you don't call them in the 1 day a week that they're open, you might be waiting another week. So you're going to have to look at it and go, when do I need to call the fire department so that I can book for the smoke detector certificate? Those are things that are going to be important. Again, getting the mortgage statement to the attorney in a timely fashion and the power of attorney so that I can request a payoff. Those are important deadlines. We miss that, we can't close in time. So there's all these little trinkets. And the reality is, in any real estate closing from beginning to end, you may be looking at 45 days maximum. So very short window, very concise. And I get that, you're selling the house, you're packing up, you're moving things. You don't have time for me to go, hey, by the way, I need that statement. I packed that up, Nicole. I don't keep those records. I shredded them. I destroyed them. Great, but I need them. So a lot of times it's a little bit of that where I'm going, but I don't even know the name of the bank. I don't have the loan number. Like those are things that I'm going to need to have. So it's really important to, like I said, be on top of it. As soon as you get that letter with the deadlines, look at it. Tell me whether or not you can't make them, and maybe we can make some kind of accommodations.
I mean, absolutely. And that small town stuff is just not a joke. It's even when you call, like, depending what kind of real estate it is and where it is and who you're looking at, getting an inspection can be very difficult. And you're right, those fire alarm people are incredibly busy and there's not a lot of them out there. So you're kind of held, your feet are held to the fire by a lot of other people's schedules. And then God forbid they then get reschedule on you or no show. I mean, some of these are smaller companies that you're working with.
Absolutely. And a lot of times when you're, dealing with a payoff, say it's DCU. I'll use them as a prime example, or most credit unions. They are so small that you pick up the phone and I have to call them. And then I have to fax the power of attorney over to them. And then I have to wait for them to process the power of attorney, which usually is a like 24-hour turnaround. And then they'll talk to me, and then they'll send me the information. So again, that's a whole process of I've lost a week just because I'm dealing with a small bank versus I'm dealing with Bank of America that I'm literally punching in your social security number and your loan number and the date of the closing. And they go, okay, and they process it. So certain banks are really, really fast, the bigger ones being the fastest. And then you have the smaller banks that are going, no, we don't know who you are and we don't trust who you are. So again, that's a little bit of an issue moving forward. Another issue is again just making sure you're available. Sometimes it's, the buyer wants a document and I don't want to provide it to them, or I don't want language in there. I need to be able to talk to you and have a conversation with you to go, Erica, I don't think it's a good idea if you put this in there. And then it's your job to listen to the reasons why and make a decision. And sometimes it's, Nicole, I'm not letting this deal go bad. Just put it in there. Or what's the risk? What is my exposure if I do this? What happens? So again, you need to run that analysis, but I need to be able to talk to you when we have that crisis come up and be able to get a hold of you so we can make that amendment, or we can disagree, or we can, unfortunately let the deal go dead, because sometimes that's what we need to do.
I mean, that makes sense. Sometimes you get to a certain point in the deal and it is easier to walk away. And, but what do you do if you really are just having problems with getting things done because of other people and you are on your game and you've got all the emails to prove it and the phone logs and everything else? Are there ways to get extensions on certain parts of the process?
Absolutely. And again, it's just about knowing where you're at. Like say, for example, you're the buyer and you don't have your mortgage commitment yet. Well, sometimes it's just you need additional time. Great. I can ask for an extension, and if the seller won't give it to me, then I can say, "Hey, we're backing out of the deal." Nobody's ever backed out of the deal. We all say it, but what it does is it gives you the right to get your deposit back. So you're getting your escrow deposit back if the deal goes south because you gave proper notice. So there are ways to get around it. And sometimes I have a deal right now that I've had to exercise the 30-day window as the seller because I have a title issue that I can't clear up. So there's an automatic clause in a purchase and sale that says I get 30 days to fix this. So there are things that we can do on both ends, buyers and sellers. But again, you need to be reasonable. You need to be able to show what you're doing, show how you're fixing the problem, show how you're addressing it, and more importantly, what kind of time frame are you going to look at that you need on one end or the other to fix that problem.
That is certainly very exciting. I feel like you are in two very exciting forms of the law because uh, it can be very fast paced and there's a lot of personalities and there's a lot of manipulation, I think, in real estate. Probably in as well as the family courts, but it feels like real estate, you know, you could get a bad deal and it could ruin your life. Just like with a family divorce settlement. You can get a bad deal and it can ruin your life.
Very true.
So is there anything else that we should be aware of when it comes to closings? I'm not sure if there are any changes in real estate law. I know that there's been a few things that have come up with how splits are done with realtors. I mean, can you go in without a realtor and just your real estate attorney? Or, do you have to bring someone in? I mean, I went to look at a property the other day and there was the seller's realtor and she brought along another realtor in case people didn't have one and pushed that person on you. And so she didn't, I think that they have to each get a piece of the pie. It's no longer so that like one realtor can get the whole thing. So they just, you know, take those deals that the person doesn't have their own realtor. I don't know. You tell me.
You can still have a dual agent. Obviously, I think it's, I don't say more frowned upon, but it's more looked at with keen eyes. Is this something going on? Is this something to be worried about? But at the end of the day, the answer is, do you need a realtor? No. Do you need to have the same realtor as the seller? Absolutely not. In terms of our purchase and sale, we're really trying to narrow down what that looks like. So where is that in the scheme of things in terms of how we're defining who's getting what percentage? So I think it's more an attorney issue overall, but I also see a lot of people that are doing, it's straight, whatever, 6% commission, 4% or 3% is going to buyer's attorney, 3% is going to the other attorney or the other broker. So I think we really have that dynamic where the monies are still being split, and mostly somebody is still paying for it, happens to be the seller, because that's what people are comfortable with. So it's funny that the law changed, because in reality it didn't change that much on paper.
That is certainly good to know because, rumors spread and people get the information wrong and it's just out there a million different ways. And it's really good to know, um, that you've got that. I've done deals with just a real estate attorney and, I feel like that is very effective because, uh, they're not just going to give you a boilerplate deal to have signed when you're trying to sell your place or buy a place. They're going to look at it and they're going to make those different provisions that have to do with your unique situation to help protect you. I mean, is that right?
I think that's absolutely correct. I think the one things that brokers do bring to the table is obviously the ability to do comps. As an attorney, great, I can do all the things to protect you legally, but I can't do a comparative analysis. I can Zillow, great. That's not really productive. So, I can negotiate a price, but I also don't have a basis for it. So I think, brokers are very good in being able to negotiate legitimate prices. And I think attorneys are very good at negotiating the terms that go into a contract that ultimately would give you that property. So I think there's definitely benefits for having both of them. Can you do without one of them? Sure. Would I ever recommend it? Probably not.
I mean, I think that people are gonna buy the house at whatever the market rate is. And you can certainly look around and see what the last things were in your neighborhood were sold for, the last houses. And you can figure out, those properties. So you can go look and see, oh, did they need a lot of work and that sort of thing. I mean, there's certain information that is public. So you can always go try to do your own comp, I guess. But definitely if you need a professional, you get the professional.
Absolutely. Again, it's a big asset. So why would you want to skimp on something that's probably your largest asset? So just think about that.
So do you have any other information for us today that would be great going into 2025 real estate market?
I think the biggest thing is, everyone should be aware, and I've tried to make people aware of this, but there's an ongoing scam going on, where you have snowbirds and they're in Florida half a year. And so the house is vacant-ish, but somebody's only coming over once a week and, just making sure the pipes haven't froze or something like that. But really vacant for the most part. Those are people that are having their house sold out from underneath them, or vacant land that now has, a for sale sign up, or people that are tenants in a property that they don't own and they're trying to sell it. Because guess what? I can look up a deed and I can see where Eric owns property. I know it. Registry tells me it's public record. So now, if I'm in her house or I'm babysitting her house, I have the authority to do that. A lot of times people aren't looking at licenses. So There's real estate transactions that are going on where brokers are being hired to list properties that aren't by the sellers. And they go through all these transactions, and some of them have actually gone through. And now the snowbird comes back from Florida and goes, "Why are there people living in my house?" So it's something to be aware of, that that is the ongoing fraud. And guess what? Somebody just made a boatload of money because I'm selling my house for 200,000 less than asking price, but I got it. But it didn't go to the owner, it went to the scammer. So just something to be aware of, that anytime you're dealing with something, as a broker, go and get the ID of the person that's selling the property. Compare that with obviously the deed and the CML and everything else, the title reports. Look at all of that stuff. If you have somebody that is MIA and isn't talking to you, that's a seller, those are red flags to somebody to go, wait a minute, is this legitimate? Because this is going on. And most importantly, I'm going to say, go to the registry of deeds. There's forms that you can fill out where you can actually type in your name and your address, and it will give you notifications anytime there's activity on your particular address or on your particular name. And every county in the Commonwealth has a website that you can go to log in to do this. So those, I think, are great tips for anybody that needs help and needs security and peace of mind that they're going to continue to own their property.
Well, that is really scary that that can actually happen. And hopefully they find a way to keep that from happening in the future. Thank you so much for coming on today, Nicole. This has been very helpful. And I'm sure lots of people are going to save a ton of money. But like Nicole said, you need a profession. You definitely need an attorney for a real estate closing. You need your own representation and, give them a call. They're amazing at what they do and the strategies are fantastic. And one of the things I like most about Nicole and her team is that if it's not worth doing, they're going to tell you. They're not going to sugarcoat it. They're not going to try to do it so that they can make more money. It's not about that. They want you to have a good deal, and they want to make sure that you have all the information that you need to do the good deal. So, thank you so much for coming on today, Nicole.
Having me.
You are welcome, and thanks everyone for watching.